Hello and welcome to our second assembly. We're going to move on a little bit, but thinking about what we talked about last time, valuing what is unseen, valuing what the Father can see, what's done in secret. I want to think a little bit about the Battle of Dunkirk. Some of you may have seen the film Dunkirk, and it's a very good recreation of what actually happened there. About 400,000 men were trapped on the beaches of Dunkirk. What had happened is the British Expeditionary Force had gone to fight against Germany and France, but the French and British forces were completely overwhelmed by a new style of warfare. And German tanks had forced the British and the French back and back onto the beaches of Dunkirk till 400,000 men were trapped there. Hitler was worried about risking his tanks against the British army. So what he did is he turned to his air force, and he had his air force repeatedly bomb the men on the beaches. Worse than that, the only way the British could get off that beach was by the ocean. That was the only way back to their home. And if the Germans controlled the air, they could sink any boat that came over. So the British were bombed repeatedly. Many men died, and the question continually went up, where is the RAF? That's actually said in the film, because one of the myths of Dunkirk was that the RAF was nowhere. As men were continually killed by enemy planes, the assumption became the RAF, the Royal Air Force, is doing nothing, it's abandoned us. The slogan became RAF stood for Rare as Fairies. You were more likely to see a fairy or a leprechaun than you were to see a genuine RAF fight overhead protecting you. Again, these men were focused on what they could see. What they didn't realize is that this wasn't 1918. You didn't see fighters in the air. They flew at an altitude that meant that they were unseen. As a matter of fact, the RAF exhausted itself in the Battle of Dunkirk. It lost over 100 men fighting, but shot down over 200 enemy craft. And that stopped the German Air Force moving out over the water and sinking British ships. If it had not been for the RAF and their continual battle above the clouds and over the ocean where the British soldiers could not see them, the entire British Expeditionary Force would have been lost. In other words, over 200,000 British soldiers would not have been able to return to Britain. In other words, Hitler would have won the Second World War. People were obsessed with what they could see. But in fact, above the clouds, over the waters, men were laying down their lives for them continually. It's a problem I think that we all have. It's something that I continually come across, if I'm frank, with teenagers. You face a problem and you assume that because you cannot see any way out of the problem, that there is no way out. You cannot see any way someone can help you, so you assume no one can help me. And it's nonsense. Quite often there are people who are busting a gut to help. Quite often there's somebody out there who can see a way out and help you out. You just can't imagine what that way is yet. You haven't seen it yet. Sometimes it might be a long and difficult path to get somebody out of a problem, but the path is there and there will be people with them. Jesus, when he was on a boat, the storm came and hit the disciples. A storm came and hit the disciples on a boat, on a small boat as they were crossing the Sea of Galilee. Very dangerous part of the world to travel by small boat. The disciples say to Jesus, "Don't you care we're going to drown?" And Jesus said back to them, "You have little faith, why are you so afraid?" And then he gets up and he tells the wind and the waves to stop. And they stop. They could not imagine that someone could do that. They could not see that someone was there who could protect them. They assumed that this man in the boat with them, who actually slept through the storm, didn't care about them, didn't care about life, was mad. Their imaginations failed them. Their minds failed them. God cares for you. It is an indisputable fact that Jesus of Nazareth lived and taught 2,000 years ago. It is an indisputable fact that he was crucified. His followers, after that crucifixion, believed that they had seen this man who they had also witnessed die on a cross walk around resurrected, not merely alive again, or not a vision of a ghost, or not a vision of an angel, but alive again. It's an indisputable fact that they told people where the body was buried, and it's also indisputable that nobody could produce Jesus' corpse to end the Christian movement. That nobody could even say we went there and there was a body. These things are all indisputable. If you feel that there's no one who cares for you, if you feel that you are of no value, you need to remember the mistake that the men made on the beaches of Dunkirk. Because they couldn't see it, because they couldn't imagine it, they assumed there was no help there. When in fact men were dying to save them. You may feel lost and alone. You may not be able to imagine that there is someone there who cares for you, but in fact, someone has died to save you. The Son of God. And that someone may have answers that you cannot even imagine.